Traditionally, understanding the technical debt inside your organization is an arduous task. The first challenge is understanding what data sources have what pieces of information that you need. Then oftentimes this process requires opening up different tools, exporting reports into spreadsheets, and manually cross-referencing the data. And as you are working on this process, your data is already becoming stale and less relevant to the state of your organization. The only thing that typically outweighs the pain of uncovering the technical debt are the risks that the technical debt represents for your organization. For the sake of clarity, technical debt, we mean things like devices that are not running endpoint protection at all, or not in the correct mode. Hardware, software, and operating systems that are end of support or end of line, deprecated encryption tools, and so on. The value of Armis when it comes to technical debt is that Armis provides you a platform to be able to bring all the data from the different data sources that you value into one place, where that data can be deduplicated and deconflicted so as to create a single source of truth. This single view of your environment allows you to answer the really important questions. For example, do I have any assets in my environment that should be running endpoint protection, but are not? This view allows us to see not only how many devices we have, but where they are located. Who are the administrators for them? And who do I need to contact to get this resolved? If you read reports on ransomware outbreaks and system intrusions, many times endpoint protections are in place on these critical assets, and that endpoint protection does detect the attack. However, they're not placed in the correct mode to take action to stop the incident. Armis allows you to detect whether your endpoint protection tool is in blocking mode or not, and that will help you stop malicious activity as soon as it's detected. When it comes to endpoint support, hardware and software operating systems, these are devices that no longer are getting any patches or fixes from the vendor. And if they happen to be running business critical applications of services, this can have a very detrimental effect on your environment. One of the distinct advantages of Armis is that it leverages its knowledge base, so that when Armis detects an operating system and device model, it automatically checks to see if it's end to support. The same thing goes for encryption protocols and certificates. Armis is looking at the validity of every certificate that it sees in its network traffic inspection, and is able to understand which certificates are no longer valid, and for what reason. Similarly, Armis can detect deprecated encryption protocols, such as TLS 1.0. For example, we can detect the usage over time, allowing you to understand the level of deprecated protocols that are in use in your environment. Further, Armis allows you to understand what are the devices that require the most attention. The last information that you got from these assets are that they do present a substantial risk to your environment. But that information hasn't been validated by a vulnerability scanner in the last 30 days. This capability allows you to single out which devices require immediate intervention to get them scanned and adequately accounted for from a risk standpoint. It is worth noting that Armis can take policy-driven action in a case like this to automatically initiate a vulnerability scan against these devices. One final example is understanding what servers, both on-prem and, in this case in the cloud, are not in a running state. We leverage our integrations with different cloud services to see what the state of the devices are at this point in time, so you can know if the servers you have designated as critical are actually online and running for your organization. These are just a few of the many examples of inherent value in having a single source of truth about your environment, and specifically when it comes to discovering a technical debt. That's the value of leveraging Armis in your enterprise.